This episode of the Hustle the Day podcast, I have David Alto. David took an opportunity of looking for a job, turned it into becoming a LinkedIn expert, and now offers LinkedIn career and resume coaching. He has a story that I think a lot of people can relate to. Let's jump into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Hustle the Day podcast. My name is Trent, and I am very honored to have David Alto here today. So excited to have you on. David, why don't you jump in and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So thank you for having me on, first of all. I really appreciate it. A little bit about what I do, career coaching, resume coaching. I really enjoy LinkedIn profile advice, making sure people, know exactly how to get the most out of their LinkedIn profile, even if maybe it could be even for a particular business or company. And I got some interesting things to share, so I won't ruin all of them right now. But I am new into officially my role, kind of, sort of, but we'll get more into that later.
Right. Yeah, you're new in doing it full time. However, you have been doing it before, and experimenting with LinkedIn, and just finding out what makes people tick. And you've managed to turn it into a business now, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, it's been a good ride so far.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how you got into LinkedIn, and how you decided that was the platform that you resonated with.
Sure. So I had to go back and look a couple of months ago because somebody asked me and I didn't remember. But I got a LinkedIn account back in 2012. And I was recently unemployed in 2012, all of a sudden. So got a LinkedIn profile like everybody does. And then I played with it, kind of did nothing with it. Early 2019, the company that I worked for, we were going to sell our company. Then we were going to franchise. Then we were not going to sell. Then we were going to sell again. Went to court about selling. Anyway, so, I did not, at 50 years old, I did not want to find myself out of work. So got on LinkedIn again and started being very active on LinkedIn, trying to understand it. Early 2019 is when, LinkedIn started to change just a little bit. At least that's from my experience and others that I talk to. And I learned all the wrong things to do when looking for a job on LinkedIn. And when I learned those, I shared them with the community in a post. And, by constantly sharing, I was learning at the same time. And so I did that, learned all the wrong things to do on LinkedIn. And I constantly, share them today, share them with my clients. I guess that's kind of how everything kind of happened on LinkedIn for me.
That's very cool. I like that you took those experiences and learned from them, and not only learned from them, shared them with people, because people were going to make those same mistakes as you. It's just inevitable that would happen. So that's very cool that you share that with people, and it's now helped develop your own brand, more or less.
Yes, and I was actually looking for work on LinkedIn. I wasn't looking to do this, as a leader. And being responsible for an awful lot of people, a lot of direct reports. I've always been that giving back leader. I think we should always, we learn something. Why don't you empower more people to learn, to do, and that makes the organization better. Of course, makes your direction reports better. So, I've always kind of given resume advice and advice just in general. So LinkedIn became an easy way for me to continue to do that. And I kind of honed my skills for months and months and months. I gave away free resume advice, LinkedIn advice on LinkedIn for months, probably about 4 or 5 months. And I did that just because it was fun, until somebody decided that no, I'm going to pay you, David. So tell me a price. And then after that, I allowed myself to say, I must be okay. So
Yeah.
I guess I could charge people now. So.
Well, yeah, especially if people are offering to pay you and, saying, rather than just this, oh, it's a free resource. Great. I'll just use it. They're saying, no, this is valuable. I've got to pay you something for this. That's very cool. So you mentioned that you are a lead, that you've, always given resume advice, and you've kind of got that mentality of leading people through example and whatnot. Who would you say has been most influential on who you've become to kind of make you that way today?
Sure. When I was a store manager, I had a district manager named Kevin Osborne that really saw something in me. And even when I didn't think I could be a district manager, multi-unit manager managing multiple retail locations, he saw something in me as an individual, as a leader in my own store. And, Kevin gave me a book every other month to read. And then I owed him a book report after I got done reading it. I did. And I enjoyed that because then you got to put down on words, what you learned. So he got me to see the world differently, see the world of a leader differently. And that move from a retail manager to a district manager is the biggest probably in any industry, because you are no longer doing the same job, basically. The only thing that's the same is the sign on the, above the doors when you walk in.
Right.
Because it is a different role. And, we started not talking about the business, but started talking about what do servant leaders do. They share. They're constantly sharing. And again, those books strategically, I look back. And then I started doing those. I read a book. I was starting to right away thinking, who could I give this book to, and what would they benefit from it? And occasionally I do a book report when I read an awesome book, especially if it's from one of my LinkedIn connections. I'll do 2 or 3 days worth of a book shout out, book review, just because if I read a book that's impactful, darn it, I want other people to be able to gain from that as well.
That's awesome. What's the latest book that you've read?
Oh boy. Well, I reread The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, only because I came across a couple individuals that I thought could benefit from it. Mm-hmm. And the audio version of that book is the best, because the author actually, you get to hear from the author, and right. That's amazing at any time, at least for me. And when I used to travel for work, I traveled about 2,000 or 3,000 miles via car every month. So a lot of audiobooks. Yes, a lot of audiobooks. So 7 Habits is just an amazing book. In fact, it was one of the first really, that book got me to think deeper, just not about myself, but about others and how I led. And so that was definitely the books that I continue to read. And I probably listen to that audio version of it 2 or 3 times a year.
Okay. Very cool. I'm going on a road trip here this weekend. So I've got a couple of audiobooks loaded up. Granted, I'll have kids in the car, but so it'll get interrupted. But that's good to know that 7 Habits is read by the author, because I do usually appreciate when the author's the one who's actually reading the audiobook. So very cool. You've got a lot of great experiences on LinkedIn, and that's kind of been your bread and butter. But what would you say is kind of the future of LinkedIn? Where do you see it going? You mentioned there's some changes that already happened. Where do you see it going from here?
Sure. I mean, I see it easily doubling in size in the next year and a half, as people, I'm constantly finding people on LinkedIn that say, Dave, I jumped away from maybe that other site to come onto LinkedIn. And then sure enough, they have a great experience on LinkedIn. And again, I meet people out in the real world, not the LinkedIn world, but out in the real world every day. And they still think it's for recruiters, and they think it's for people looking for a job. There's still people out there. And it's much more. I have developed true relationships with people that we've taken offline that we probably won't do business together ever, but genuine friendships. Either meet them for coffee, maybe Zoom because they live in Texas or they live in Australia. So you can make genuine relationships, and you can learn, and you gotta share, and you gotta interact. Don't just like a post. Do me a favor. If you like it, don't hit the like. Actually comment. Tell the author of that post or article, video, what you appreciate about that post.
Yeah, I think that's transferable across all the social media platforms because, Instagram is, hiding likes and whatnot because they want real interaction. They don't want, just a click of a button. They want somebody to actually engage in the content. And, LinkedIn has a lot more potential growth in terms of native content, and you don't have to pay to show your content to everybody.
Yes.
But again, they value that interaction and that talking to people. Recently I've noticed a big change in Gary Vaynerchuk, who has been a big proponent of LinkedIn more recently throughout this last year, just because he sees the value in the platform as well. So that's great that you were already ahead of that curve, because it's one of those things where it's like, I probably should be paying a little bit more attention to LinkedIn. And really, it makes a lot of sense when I'm interviewing entrepreneurs and those who get out there and hustle. They're going to be on LinkedIn. So I'm going to take a lot out of this and try and apply it in my own life.
Sure.
So you recently just went out on your own. Like we talked about, you had been working on this before leaving the corporate job. But since you have left that corporate job, have you, first of all, what's kind of been your biggest failure, and what have you learned from it?
Sure. Well, yeah, I'm not quite a month into full time, yet. Leaving December 13th is when I left it, my corporate job. But anyway, so biggest failure. Well, I'm gonna reverse that. A lot of people that I talk to say that they just maybe up and quit, or then they start it. So, or they grow. Maybe they do what I did, and but they didn't have that big of a presence. So I already had an awful lot of followers when I started. So my posts get more views, get more comments, get more interaction. So I'm very glad that I did it. Very happy that I did it the right way. I mean, I built my presence, my following, my connections, and then I introduced my new business, and that allows me to continue to get business. Being a multi-unit manager, district manager for a very long time, kind of work remotely anyway. I mean, my boss only comes out 2 or 3 times a year to see me. So I'm very disciplined with my time. Working from home if you've never done it before, people think it's easy, but there's a lot of distractions.
Oh, yeah.
And friends think that if you're working from home, you can go to the gym anytime you want. Now, maybe you can fit it in the middle of the day where you couldn't in your 9-to-5 job, but you still end up putting in an awful lot of work. So I don't know if I really have one thing but I think the one thing I'd like to share is, again, build your presence wherever you're at, because if you do go out on your own, how are you going to continue that new business coming in, right? That you need now, because you don't have that steady paycheck, coming in, once or twice or once or a few times a month there. So I think that's the advice I'd give.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally understand that and can relate to that, because a lot of times in my experience, I just jump into it. I don't wait for the right moment. I don't wait for the right time. And that hurts sometimes is, because I don't have that established presence like you did. But, there's also the opposite point of, what if you wait too long and you never end up doing it? So,
well, yeah. And that's why, I didn't wait too long, meaning, I was doing my 9-to-5 job and still making time to, in the morning, after work, weekends, didn't matter. I was making time because I had to prove to myself, of course, and my wife, that I could sustain this if I went full time, because there was no way, I could do this 100% and get what out of it I wanted without leaving my 9-to-5 job. But I had to prove again to myself, to my spouse, that I could do this. And I think that's why you gotta, struggle, or, I look back at that 3+ months I did that, which felt a lot longer than 3+ months. But I needed that really to prove that I could. I am definitely a planner, but I don't wait either. So, I mean, I'm a doer. So if that makes sense.
That's like the perfect combination.
It is, right? Actually, for your head, sometimes it isn't. But I am a planner, but then I put that plan into motion, and I guess I don't wait too long.
There you go. And so with your experience on LinkedIn and, turning this into a business before you turned it into a business, what's kind of a challenge that you came across that you didn't expect to face?
Oh, sure. That's easy. I had imposter syndrome for a long time. Now, that gets thrown out there a lot. And so what is imposter syndrome? It's when you are just not allowing yourself to say you're good at something. Now, in my previous career, I could say I was great at it. Why? I did it for a long time. I know I was great. The numbers prove it. But when things come quickly to people, like it did with me on LinkedIn, when I say quickly, I mean less than a year, way less than a year. When things come quickly to us, sometimes we have a hard time saying we're good. So I suffered from it. I think I was in remission, and then I got it again. And I actually had a phone call earlier today that imposter syndrome has popped up yet again. But it's a new venture. And again, when things are new to us, sometimes we have a hard time saying we're good. But you know what? They do say fake it until you make it. I think part of that is true. And you do have to surround yourself with people that can say that you're good. And if your customers are, then darn it, just be quiet, accept it, and move on, right? But sometimes that brain gets in the way, and that imposter syndrome is truly a thing for some of us.
Absolutely, it is. I totally can relate to that. However, I think the thing you have to remember is to really teach someone, all you have to do is stay one lesson ahead of them. And so to somebody like me who, has a whopping, 200 connections on LinkedIn, just because I haven't put effort into it, it's like looking at yours, it's like, wow, this guy's really got it figured out. And even if you've got 5,000 connections and, the guy you're helping out only has 4,000 connections, you're still ahead of him. I know that connections aren't necessarily the best way to measure it. However, it's a way I can relate it. So I totally understand the imposter syndrome, and you're doing great stuff. Just what I've looked up and researched about you before we started recording, or before we connected. You're definitely not living the typical imposter of I'm an internet guru. I've got this rented Lamborghini. I'm going to teach you how to become rich, and you're going to make me rich in the process. That's definitely not your MO. So
no, my videos can be silly at times. They can be informative at times. I am just myself, and you need to do that. Sure, there's others that I gain maybe little experiences or take little things from them, but you have to be yourself, because if you're not genuine, immediately your followers, your connections, they will truly know. So, I don't edit my videos. Sure, now I do put little text and stuff. So if you're hearing impaired or you're in the office and get your earbuds in, you can listen to them. And most of the time, I put some little headlines and make my videos great. But in the beginning, I can tell you, I never did that. And I hear this all the time. Well, Dave, until I get this, I'm not gonna post or share anything. You know what? I didn't do that. I still look back at some of the videos I did, and they were horrible. But again, you don't get okay, then you don't get good, then you don't get great until you just put it out there.
Yeah, and I agree. If you listen to my first couple of podcasts, I'm awful at interviewing people. I'm still not great, but I'm working on it, and it's one of those things you just got to put it out there. You got to get at it and then, figure it out along the way. So I appreciate that you can be a guinea pig for me a little bit here, but you really struck a chord though on the authenticity though. People can just see right through it nowadays online. There was a time where people couldn't see through that, and it was really successful for people, but you definitely have to be your authentic self, and people resonate with that because there's 7 billion people in the world. You're going to find your tribe. You're going to find the people who resonate with you. Not everybody's attracted to the same type of people and the same type of personality. So you've really hit it there. You got to be your authentic self, and that's what's going to really help grow your following.
I think there's something to say without being you don't need to be perfect, right? You just got to be you. And even if you're pitching to a big business, or maybe it's the biggest deal that you've ever done or whatever, you still don't need to be perfect. And like you said, you got to, they're looking at you as the subject matter expert for a reason. Mm-hmm. So accept it, embrace it, and just do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like you're definitely out there hustling, working towards making this even more successful than your previous career. How do you personally define the word hustle?
Boy, hustle. I hear, side hustle, whatever. I mean, come on, they're all jobs, right? But hustle. So you need to be determined. Okay, so today's I better not say the date because maybe we won't air the same day. But all right, it's the beginning of January 2019, right? A lot of people have goals, right? Mm-hmm. So how do we hustle to achieve those goals, right? So one, it's got to be attainable. You've got to break it down. And I think same thing with, whatever, your hustle or whatever it is that you got to break things down to the ridiculous, meaning, you can't have big goals. Again, brand new year, people got goals, lose 60 pounds. Your goal should never be to lose 60 pounds. You should be goal to first eat right, maybe exercise, maybe change some things in your daily life that allow you to, exercise or whatever. So hustle for me just means knowing what you want, putting plan in action, surrounding yourself and sharing that hustle with others. It can't just live up here. Your dreams cannot just live up here. You need to get others involved. Could be people on LinkedIn, could be family, friends, coworkers, whomever. But hustle for me means having a plan, putting it in motion, and surrounding yourself with others that can help you achieve that hustle or goal.
That's very cool. I like that you mentioned involving others, because that's not something you always hear, but it's really beneficial. It's absolutely crucial to have those around you, cheering you on and helping you, even on those times where you don't feel like accomplishing that goal. Somebody can nudge you and be like, hey, remember, this is the goal. Don't forget it. And it can make a big difference between achieving that goal or not achieving that goal. So I like that you involve those people.
I think about it like addictions, right? And I'm not relating that, totally here. But again, I've known some people that have had some addictions. They have to surround themselves with the right people, obviously, right? Depending on whatever it is, right? You surround yourself with the right people because you have to have a support system. So if you have a goal, if you have you want to start a new business, you have to share it. Surround yourself with people that maybe know a little bit more about the, particular, section of your business that you want to get into, advice or whatever, but you just have to surround yourself. And that's what I think I did with LinkedIn. I just surrounded myself. There's been plenty of people on LinkedIn willing, what I thought, what influencers in the beginning, which they are, but I like the word contributor better. Influencer to me just has that stigma to it. Anyway, there are plenty of people on LinkedIn that are willing just to pick up the phone and answer a question without, any money exchanging, ever, maybe no deal, never. Again, maybe they see something, and there's, you asked me earlier who's really, influenced my life, and I talked about Kevin Osborne in my business life, and life in general through through his just teachings and best practices. But I'll say this name, maybe hopefully one last time, Corey Warfield, very big on LinkedIn. He's an amazing individual. He took the time to not only connect with me when I was fairly new in this journey, but we got to chat on the phone, and he was happy that I was going into this direction, because he listened. He actively listened to the things I was telling him about myself and what I wanted to do. And then he instructed me with a few different little things. And that is when I really started doing some different unique things on LinkedIn, giving back, giving little tidbits of advice. And it was that conversation. And those are the type of people you'll find, very giving people on LinkedIn.
That's very cool. I like that, you can find those people, because a lot of people think, I'm not going to reach out to this person just because, they're of certain prominence and, they get this a lot and whatnot. But I've been surprised by people that I've reached out to through other avenues that are willing to share things, and you don't know until you try. I mean, you obviously want to be able to provide them some value too, but at the same time, you don't know how you can help them until you ask, No,
that is correct. I mean, I get people now, because I have almost 20,000 followers, and I do get people now that go, "Oh, I can't believe you took time to call me." And I'm like, "Well, why?" But again, I remember the same thing. So I get it. I do. But just remember, we all started somewhere, and not everybody on LinkedIn, is about the mighty dollar. Sometimes, people are just very genuine and want to help. Or again, maybe Corey, when he had that conversation with me, saw something that I posted, and maybe it reminded him of him, when he was new to the platform. So again, plenty of giving servant leaders on LinkedIn that are just willing to help out. So it's an amazing platform. If you're not on it, you're missing out.
Yeah. So you mentioned authenticity and, being yourself. What's something that somebody could do to help grow their LinkedIn following, kind of the LinkedIn 101? What's kind of a tip or trick that you might have?
Sure. So you're going to get two answers.
Okay.
You're only going to get one from me, but you would get two. You could get two answers depending on who you ask. So a lot of people say that I only connect with people in my same industry, same likes. Here's what I have to say. If I would have done that, I would have missed out on so many individuals, and I would not be doing what I'm doing today. So I say you reach out to everybody and anybody. Maybe you see a post, you comment, you like what they say, for some reason something resonates and you want to connect with them. Now, there's not too many requests that I turn down at all. Now, if they try to sell me Bitcoin or whatever right away, I laugh, because I still get about, 4 or 5 a week, I guess.
Yeah.
I think they think too, if I have a lot of followers, I must have a lot of money, so maybe I want to buy a Bitcoin, right? And maybe that's probably not the case either way. But anyway, I would not have learned all the amazing things that I've learned on LinkedIn using the platform without connecting with whomever. And the friendships that I've made do nothing what I'm doing now or anything similar to what I did in the past. So I connect with everybody and anybody. And again, if for some reason they say something, then you can block them, remove them, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But again, don't. I shared this with somebody the other day. And I asked them, so wait a minute, all your friends off of LinkedIn all do the same thing you do. Like, they go, no, that's stupid. You know, right? You know, that's what they said. No, I got friends that do all sorts of things. So I go, why would that be any different on any social media platform, especially LinkedIn?
Yeah.
He goes, oh, okay, I get it. Again, connect with people that something that you like. Maybe they went to the same school, posted something again that you liked. And again, just don't worry about it. Be in the moment, learn, share, and you'll grow organically over time.
So really what you're saying, though, is my method of only connecting with people I know in person or that I've connected with over these Zoom calls is probably not the right strategy.
Yeah, you might not grow very fast, and you're only going to learn. You're only going to learn from them, and right. If they don't bring anything unique, that's why I like chatting with anybody, because I'm going to learn something from it. When I'm doing a resume or doing some type of career coaching or interview prep, right? Mm-hmm. I like learning something new about a particular industry that you didn't know before. And I get an opportunity to do that multiple times, a day. And it's just interesting. And I think when we go through life, again, it's about continuing to learn. And when we learn way more about ourselves. And I think we're just better people for it. So.
Yeah, we definitely learn about ourselves, learning from others. I would absolutely agree with that. Yep. I've learned a lot about myself, just by talking to other individuals, talking to other entrepreneurs, doing this podcast. Like, I've learned a ton about myself, and of course about other people as well. But I don't typically think of it as that, and it just kind of clicked there as you mentioned that. It's like, oh yeah, I've definitely learned a lot about myself. So you do a little bit of career coaching, you do, LinkedIn coaching, resume coaching. Is there a certain profession that is better suited to that, or is this really transferable across the board?
That's a really good question. I get clients a lot of times say, well, Dave, have you ever worked with somebody in this industry? And then I'll just say, no. I mean, I could tell a little white lie, right? But I tell them no. I go, here's what doesn't matter. Regardless of what coach you hire, okay, the industry does not matter, okay? It's really the client. Can we get enough the information out of the client to make sure we know what they want, what they want to do, what they've done, again, to whether it's write them a resume or build or help them with their LinkedIn profile, or maybe it's some interview prep. It really, again, it does not matter the industry whatsoever. In fact, if there's coaches out there that maybe we get a new client that we've never done this industry before. Well, to be honest, that makes us have to dig and work more, and find more information maybe that. But one thing that people are not doing when it comes to resumes, they have this amazing resume, and I've told clients this before. You don't need to pay anybody to do your resume, period. It is great. I give them some tips, and I said, you're not going to pay me for doing this. Now, however, are you going to use this resume to apply for about 3 or 4 of those different positions that you wanted to? And they say yes. And I say, well, great. You're going to continue to get rejection emails, because what people don't realize now, it's not good enough. And I'm not trying to pitch something. I provide a service, but I'm not trying to pitch. What I'm trying to tell you is you need to slow down, look at the job description, because what the resume scanning software does, it scans your resume, it scans the job description. If it's not enough of a match, you're going to get that rejection letter within 24 hours, sometimes within a few hours, maybe a day or two. And it is not because you can't do the job. Mm-hmm. It's the computer says you can't do the job based on the job description. So that being said, you got to slow down, look for those keywords. And one of the services I do provide, again, is that I will scan your resume, send you the results of that so you can see exactly what I see. And then you tell me what keywords that you know and use that I can strategically place back in your resume to make sure that it actually gets seen by people. I mean, I can't guarantee, of course, that you're going to get a call, right?
Right.
Nobody can do that, but you can feel more confident that when you apply for that role, you have a better chance of being seen. And that's where people are really missing the boat, is slowing down, not using the same resume, but really looking at the keywords. And if you don't know what keywords are in a job description, best thing to do, print it out, cross off every just miscellaneous word, and maybe you'll start seeing some trends. Kind of what the resume scanning software kind of does, and then, of course, there's some generic do's and don'ts on a resume that most people just don't know, that the resume scanning software then basically doesn't know how to read the resume. You can't read your resume, you're not going to get past the screening software.
Right. And that's something that, in retrospect, I'm glad this happened, because it's led me to the journey where I'm on now. But there was a time where I definitely could have used your services, because I remember a time with a transition, for whatever reason. I mentioned this on another podcast, but for whatever reason, my job transitions always happen when a baby's being born in my family. So not an ideal time to have to change careers. But there was one point in time where I sent my resume out at least 1,000 times from, whatever company that I wanted to be a part of. I was willing to be a receptionist. I was willing to do whatever. I was applying for, VP position to receptionist position, because I had experience all over the place. But I ended up getting 2 calls out of it, out of 1,000 resumes, and it was pretty disheartening. One of them ended up being a job that I did take, doing car sales. Like that. That's what it was deflating at the time, because you're thinking, wow, I'm qualified for all these things, and nothing against car sales. I actually really liked the job. But it's like, this is the only thing I'm qualified for. Like, it's kind of like that thing. You sell your house, you put your house on the market, all the numbers tell you it's worth $300,000. Well, the market tells you what it's really worth.
That's right.
The job market was telling me what I was worth, and that was disheartening. However, like I said, it ended up leading me to where I am today, and I'm grateful for that. But at the time, had I known that this was an option, it would have been like, man, this is fantastic. I need to be doing this.
Yeah, that's why I share little tips about, I'm always sharing daily tips, like what not to put on your resume, because I know what the resume scanning software hates. And I share that, openly, every other day or whatever, depending on what the messages of the day that I'm posting on LinkedIn, whether it's a video or just a message. But I really want people to know, again, what definitely not to put on there, because again, the scanning software hates a lot of different things. And the problem is, you got dad or grandpa telling you to only have a 1-page resume, which most people can't get all the things they've done on a 1-page. I'm sorry. So if you're hearing this, 1 page, it is what it is. I tell clients, if it's 2, it's 2. If it's 3, it's 3. If it's 1.5 or 1 3/4, then it is. But 1's just not enough. What I'm seeing lately is just not enough content. 3 or 4 bullet points about a job that you've done for 8 years does not tell the story of what you did, and not enough on there, not enough meat on there for the scanning software to ever accept it. So it's not about that you can do the job, because those will get you the interview. That will get the interview. But making sure that the software can, and is it fair? No, I don't. So many people, hundreds, thousands of people are playing for the same one job.
Right.
That's why you have to slow down before you submit that resume.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to get you together with another person I interviewed, Prem Kumar, who has a company that uses artificial intelligence to go over your resume before it ever sees any person. But his whole goal is to improve the candidate experience, as well as qualify people What do you think the future is for resumes?
Sure. You know what? This is what I tell my clients daily. So the resume gets you, seen, but then people are really going to where? Not to face. They're not they're not spying on your drunk fest on on Facebook anymore. They're whatever. They're headed over to LinkedIn. So your LinkedIn profile, people don't take advantage of all the things and all the things that you can showcase on your LinkedIn profile. People just don't take enough advantage of. It really needs to be your resume on steroids. It needs to be your resume and then a lot more, because there's so much more you can do on your LinkedIn profile without being active on the platform. But there's just so much you can do. So, the resume is not going to go away. But again, that having that amazing LinkedIn profile, as where people are gravitating towards, and recruiters and hiring managers, if you don't know this, they can scan your LinkedIn profile. They can actually save anybody's profile as a PDF. They can scan your LinkedIn profile just like a resume. So why wouldn't you want everything that is on your resume, on your profile, plus some to have you stand out amongst the others.
Yeah. And one thing I think that you've alluded to, that you keep talking about, one way to stand out is video, right?
Oh, yes. There's plenty of places in your about section. You can post video, you can post documents, you can post links to websites. People don't take advantage of that. In your about section, in your work experience, you can actually post little documents and videos. But in your about section, if you're really actively looking for work and you don't have a job, shoot a two-minute video talking about, again, something special, because now that recruiter is getting ready to call a couple of applicants, and maybe they see that. Now they get to hear it from you. They hear your passion about talking about whatever you're talking about for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And I'm not talking about posting just a post, but post a video, maybe onto a website, and then link it in your about section. Somebody can now, actually hear from you. And you know what? Again, it's just going to make your profile and make the reason that they were about to call you, and really, they're going to really pick up that phone and actually give you a call because of the content that you put on there.
That's awesome. I didn't realize you could put a video in the about section. So obviously I know you could do it for posts and things like that, but that's cool that's a little neat trick that can definitely make a difference to help you stand out against someone else.
Oh yeah, it could be maybe you did a presentation at work that you're allowed to put on there, and you're not going to put the whole thing, but maybe you tailor it down. I had a client recently that had this very amazing kind of a speech presentation. He cut it down to about 3 minutes and a couple of videos, and put that as an about section. And that is amazing, because if you're connecting, maybe you're just connecting with the individual, right? Maybe he's not looking for work or whatever. But after watching that, what he's passionate about. One, he's a great public speaker, but
yep.
One, you can hear his passion even in 2-3 minutes. And again, that's just going to make him stand out regardless. Somebody's trying to connect with him, vice versa, or, he's looking for, a new job. Again, that's where people don't realize all those things that you can do on that LinkedIn profile. So even if you have that amazing resume, you got to get that LinkedIn profile, up to speed.
Yeah, absolutely. So of course I'll make sure to put, a link in the description of the podcast here, new LinkedIn, and
Sure.
your information. But before I get to the last question, are there any shout outs that you want to give out there, or where's the best place for people to find out more information about you?
Well, when I am not talking to a client, I am on LinkedIn. So the best thing to do is just find me on LinkedIn, message me. Check out some of my daily videos and shares, and I think you'll find them helpful. And like I said, you'll find out I'm willing to connect with everybody and anybody. So come on in, and if you don't want to connect with me, you can always just follow me to see my daily shares and stuff. So that's the best place to follow me.
Very cool. You've definitely given a lot of great advice on this podcast today. and I'm very grateful for that. But I want to ask you just, whether related to business or personal, what is it that excites you about the future?
Sure. So, I know for me, a year from now, maybe I'm not writing that many resumes, right? Or doing something else. I'm starting to get more than a few different businesses that are reaching out to me, asking them how they can, gain more traction using LinkedIn. So I think sometimes when entrepreneurs first get into business, they only think about one little niche. Be open to, sometimes it's hard to have your irons in a lot of fires, right? But,
Mm-hmm.
Let things naturally come. And when you build relationships, guess what? You get ideas, right? You get partnerships. And how do you get more ideas? You got to interact with more people. And,
True.
During our day, maybe you get in the car, you drive to Starbucks, you say hello to the barista, you go to work, you come home. You don't interact with a lot of different people a lot of the times, even at work. We interact with the same people. So LinkedIn's a great place to interact with different, unique people that, can influence, your business. And you never know what that business is going to morph into. Mm-hmm. But I think you can just naturally kind of let it, there's goals and stuff that I have for this year and things that I want to do, but I'm going to let them, build naturally, I think.
Very cool. Yeah, I agree that you do need to be open to those changes and things. I mean, if you would have asked me what I thought last year, Hustle Energy would be, a podcast wasn't even on the horizon. Like I'd never know, but here I am. And I've really enjoyed it and really enjoyed the experience and definitely enjoyed talking with you today, David. And I appreciate that you took time out of your day in between all that you've got going on and, trying to build this new business of yours. So I appreciate the time.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on and just allowing me to share, my journey, because it could be, a stepping stone for somebody else. And that's what I enjoyed sharing today. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. I'm sure my audience is going to definitely resonate with all the things that you've talked about with LinkedIn and even, just careers in general. So I appreciate it again. But to anybody who's listened, I know I got value out of this. So I know you got value out of this. So get out there and hustle the day. Thanks for listening to the Hustle the Day podcast all the way through. I really appreciate that. I just want to let you know that I help small businesses with their online strategy. So if you or anyone that you know needs help with their online strategy and owns a small business, I'm your guy. Go ahead and connect with me at Trent V Bray on Instagram or TrentVBray.com.